Hey, I'm Jenny Hale. We're doing a bit of a exploration of trauma at the moment, and most people are aware of the big T trauma. You know, you've been in a war or had a victim of a crime or something. But the small T trauma is a bit more subtle, and people aren't necessarily so aware of that. The small T trauma can arise from something that you don't even remember, things that happened very early in your childhood before you were forming memories, and they have an effect on you. There's stored emotions because you weren't supported at the time. You've got these very overwhelming childhood emotions under the surface and keeping them down. And you've done a pretty good job. You've been keeping them down for a long time now. But every now and again, something will happen that wants to pull these small child emotions to the surface. Something resonates, something reminds you, something's familiar, there's an association, and this emotion starts to stir. When that happens, you'll have a trauma response. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So today I'm going to talk about flight and how that looks, because it's not always just leaping up and running out of the room. Obviously, at the extreme, it'll be that. But for most people, it's not that. For most people, there's a more subtle version of flight. It's things like being restless and antsy, just feeling like uncomfortable, feeling like you don't quite belong somewhere, or being a perfectionist, being absolutely focused on getting every detail of something exactly right. Obviously, the obvious things like anxiety and OCD and having panic attacks are related to the flight response. But also overthinking. One of the best places to run away to is into our own head, into our own thoughts. If we're thinking about something, we won't be feeling it. That's a trick that a lot of kids come into at some point, where they realize that if they can just conceptualize about the situation and conceptualize the emotions, understand why and what's going on, they don't feel it so much. It doesn't hurt so much if they're thinking about it rather than feeling it. So people run away into their thoughts. And also the classic, absolutely classic, unrecognized trauma response, flight response, is being a workaholic. Running away from all of the emotional things in life by burying yourself in work. This was definitely mine, and I still have the impulse when I'm dealing with some unpleasant emotion, and I'm particularly when I'm by myself, is like, maybe I'll just go check my emails. I know what it is, and I don't do it anymore. But being a workaholic is actually a sign that you have some unresolved trauma, some pretty deep stuff, some painful stuff from early childhood, probably quite subtle, probably things you don't remember, but definitely worth looking into and resolving if you want to actually be able to relax in life, be able to have freedom, be able to enjoy, being able to connect with other people. If you're in the group of the flight response, one of the first things to go is connection with other people. So if you're often feeling lonely, left out, you're in a group of people, but you feel disconnected, you feel like you don't belong, you may actually have a flight response going on that's distancing you from people. So if any of this rings a bell for yourself or someone you know, if you're interested in being able to resolve this stuff, then I recommend you join our trauma masterclass. You'll get all the basics about trauma, what it is, how it gets formed, how we resolve it, and also useful information for how to hold space for others or facilitate for others to help them to move through this stuff as well.